North Korea's nuclear program has become too big for the old playbook. For decades, Washington focused on one main goal: denuclearization first. But North Korea has kept expanding its nuclear and missile program, while talks repeatedly collapsed. According to the Foreign Affairs, the more realistic near term goal may now be a cold peace. Not friendship, not normalization, but a direct communication, crisis management, and risk reduction. CPRI's latest public nuclear assessment also shows why this matters. North Korea is estimated to have around 60 assembled nuclear warheads and enough material for more. So the urgent question is no longer only how to remove North Korea's weapons. It is how to prevent from these weapons triggering a catastrophic war. North Korea's threat has grown dramatically over the 3 decades. In the early 1990s, Pyongyang had only limited fissile material and no reliable way to strike the United States. But over time, it moved from plutonium production at Yongbyon to nuclear test, then to long-range missile development. CIPRI's estimates North Korea now has around 60 assembled nuclear warheads and enough fissile material for the least 30 more. US intelligence also says North Korea's ICBM can already reach US soil and that Pyongyang remains committed to expanding its nuclear arsenal. The lesson is simple: denuclearization remains an important long term goal, but the immediate danger is the escalation management. The old denuclearization first strategy failed because North Korea never truly intended to give up its nuclear weapon. Several rounds of diplomacy produced temporary progress, but none produced a lasting settlement. The 1994 Agreed Framework froze parts of the nuclear program in exchange for energy support. The 2005 six-party talks created another major framework. The 2012 Leave Duty deal collapsed after satellite launch, and the 2018 to 2019 Trump-Kim summits created drama but no durable deal. CSIS Beyond Parallel continues to track North Korea's missile infrastructure and undeclared missile bases, showing how large and opaque the program remains. The core problem is that making denuclearization the first condition block talks on other useful issues like arm limits, crisis hotlines, and conventional risk reduction. The first priority should be protecting the US homeland. North Korea's long-range missiles are no longer theoretical. The US intelligence community says North Korean ICBM can already reach US soil. The Defense Intelligence Agency has also warned that North Korea is developing ballistic missiles intended to strike US targets in the region and the continental United States. This is why missile defense matters. But missile defense alone cannot solve the problem. The US ground based mid course defense system has a limited number of interceptors, and future upgrades will take time. So, Washington needs practical negotiations as well: limits on missile testing, limits on production, and caps on nuclear material. The goal should be able to reduce the nuclear risk for the near term, even when the denuclearization stays a long term objective. A cold peace means dialogue without pretending that relations are normal. The goal is not friendship with Pyongyang. The goal is to prevent miscalculation with a nuclear state. That means arms control talks, direct communication channels, and clear escalation rules. For example, Washington and Pyongyang still lack reliable crisis communication. During a military incident, weak communication can turn a small clash into a much larger conflict. A cold peace would also require a strong allied deterrence. The United States, South Korea, and Japan would still need missile defense cooperation, nuclear planning, and clear warning that any North Korean nuclear use would be met with an overwhelming consequences. So the formula is talk to reduce first, data to prevent aggression. North Korea is also a stronger because it now has more backing from Russia and China. According to the Foreign Affairs and the Reuters reporting, North Korea has supplied troops, ammunition, and missiles to support Russia's war in Ukraine. In return, Moscow is suspected of helping Pyongyang with technology, fuel, finance, and military know-how. Reuters has also reported that North Korea's cooperation with Russia has included large-scale military support and deeper strategic ties. China remains North Korea's main economic lifeline, providing trade and diplomatic cover. This makes sanctions weaker than before. When China and Russia do not fully enforce pressure, North Korea has more room to survive and expand. The North Korea problem is no longer isolated. It is now tied to a greater power competition between Washington, Beijing, and Moscow. The least bad strategy will be to manage the reality now. The old policy was denuclearization first, backed mainly by sanctions pressure. But that approach produced repeated deadlock while North Korea kept expanding its arsenal. The new policy should keep denuclearization as a long-term goal, but focus immediately on the risk reduction. That means a cold peace, arms limits, crisis management channels, allied deterrence, and efforts to weaken Pyongyang dependence on Moscow and Beijing. This is not a perfect solution. It does not reward North Korea, and it does not accept nuclear danger as normal. It simply recognizes the reality that a hot war with nuclear North Korea would be a far worse. The final message is clear: avoid a hot war by managing the nuclear risk now. The sources for this article were Foreign Affairs, SIPRI,